Welcome to Podcast on Wheels, powered by Power Loops. Today we have a very special guest, and Coach Burt here with us today. He's a visionary leader. He has the Greatness Factory. He's a pre-drive expert, championship coach. He was the youngest head coach leading Riverdale High School to success. Best-selling author, empire building, and over 20 years of experience empowering top performers to achieve greatness. Coach Burt, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and most unique podcast studio I've ever been in.
That is a huge compliment. Thank you.
My mind immediately goes to all the ways this could be utilized, right? So congratulations on coming up with something new.
Thank you.
Novel, different.
Mm-hmm.
Part of being a person of interest is creating things. New, novel, different, right? It's like Walt Disney walked in and said, I want to make something different, better, and more magical. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of being a person of interest. Greatness Factor is new. It's novel. It's different.
Yeah.
Adds on to what was here before. So, this is I could hang. I don't know if I'd go back to work if I just hang out over here. But it's very cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Coach, you're open book, you're consistent in a lot of things that you say, but I really enjoyed hearing the stories that when I've heard you speak, and I've heard you a few times. I don't know if you can see me way back in the corner, but there's some stories that you tell about when you were coaching your basketball team and how you built that. Can you take us back there and enlighten me?
When I was 18 years old, I went to a coaching clinic in Nashville with the great Don Meyer, and Don Meyer was... Most people don't know who Don Meyer was, but he coached at a Division III school or NAI school called David Lipscomb University, and he was a machine, man. And he would hold these open coaching clinics, 600 to 800 coaches, free clinics. And as a young basketball coach at 18, I went and I'm sitting in there and I'm like, this is crazy. Like the way they pivot, the way they play. Everybody's got a notebook. Everybody sits in the front 1/3 of their seat. And he was like, teaching life through basketball. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's what I want to do, right? This is going to be different. So he got me involved with reading Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I immediately read that book and go, I want to teach my players those 7 habits. And so it became like I had this university, my own little greatness factory, where kids came to me, and I spent about 5.5 hours a day pouring into those kids, but it was very advanced thinking. 7 habits, good to great, 5 dysfunctions of teams. And the other coaches couldn't understand what I was doing. They would talk about motivation. Y'all need to be motivated. You need to do this. Where I was actually teaching them how to lead, how to think. And that became a little greatness factory for me. And over 31 years, we won 74.7% of the time. And it's where I learned. It's where I tested ideas, and it's like a laboratory for me, coaching on my concepts. And it was great. I would not trade it for anything.
I hear you. I just was reminded when I was coaching college baseball, we had an outfielder. He was a little bit hot-headed.
Yeah. And
he struck out, and he comes in the dugout. One of the other coaches said, you need to make an adjustment. And he goes, what adjustment do I need to make?
Yep. And
I heard that, and it kind of hit me the way you're saying. Like a lot of people talk about, but how do you explain it to them? Right? So
well, they talk about motivation.
Right.
You need to be more motivated. I had a high school basketball coach that played at the University of Tennessee, and he wasn't a great coach. But he would say to me, Burt, you're too slow. But he wouldn't tell me how to get fast. Right? Like when I look back on that, I wish he would have said, come in 30 minutes early. We're going to work on your footwork. Right? You got great skills. You can see the floor. You're a great point guard. But I need to, right? He never told me how to do it.
Yeah.
I'm coaching a CEO of a $20 million company this morning, and he's telling me what he needs his people to do. And I said, well, have they ever had any training? Have they ever had any coaching?
Right.
No. They don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do that. So it's one thing to say, well, you need to get better, and you need to get more motivated, and you need to get faster, and you need to figure out how to do this. It's another thing to say, okay, say it like this. Do it like this, like train and coach people. Mm-hmm. And that's from my athletic background. That's really where that comes from. There's not enough training in business. So people are not trained, right? And we have an online academy, but I still think we could train a whole lot more than what we do. Jan and I were talking about this morning about onboarding people. Because if we onboard people, they need to be trained.
Right.
And I think, well, we have an online academy. It's got 228 courses in it. Like, that's training. But they also need to be trained in What do we believe? Why do we believe it? What do we do? What separates me from other coaches? How do you get on the phone and close a person, right? That's training too that they need to get. So those are things we're working on as well.
So I saw a picture, I think it was the other day, of maybe a young you. You had a birthday just last week, right? Or so, I think. But you said to show up, dress up. Tell me about that. Tell me about where that came from.
Well, I was raised by a single mom.
Okay.
She had me when she was 16.
Okay.
And I don't remember a lot of things. And my mom always says maybe I remember it different than how it happened. And that's called counterfactual thinking, is you remember things differently, but that's how I remember it. And what I remember Mom doing is being very strict. And I remember her having these sayings: we dress up, we show up, we grow up, we don't whine, we don't complain, we don't make excuses. She wouldn't let me miss a day of school. I was having this discussion with my daughter last night who made like 81 on a test or something. And
Sure.
They gave her a chance to take it over, and she said, why should I take it over? It's 81, I'm like, man, when I grew up, my mom, it was all A's. There was no question. You're making A's. You don't miss school. You show up, and so a lot of that philosophy was conditioned in me very early in life. I didn't know it. I was just a kid,
Right.
but it was kind of being conditioned in me. See, when I meet people today that are older, and maybe they don't have discipline, maybe they don't have confidence, maybe they don't have boldness. Maybe somewhere along the way they didn't get these things, right? Because the school system's not going to teach it. A lot of it comes from coaches. Like coming up to this baseball field took me back to, I grew up on a baseball field.
Okay.
I would stay at a baseball field till 10 o'clock at night as a 6-year-old kid with coaches raising me because my mom was working. So my mom would take me to the baseball field, and I'd just say, go do what you got to do. Come back and get me late at night. And I was literally the last one to leave every night. So it was there that I figured out I was going to be a great coach. So that's where these things that it's hard to describe, it's hard to take that and put that prey drive into a person when it's conditioned into you very early, right? We look like somebody when we go out of the house.
Yeah.
Mom used to say, right, what happens if you have a wreck and you look like that? It's like all these little sayings, and it's like, it's like, I don't know if anybody's going to say that, but that's the way I was raised.
So you're raised that way. You go to the big coaches clinic, you're learning, you're growing in the early 20s. I remember when I heard you speak for the first time, and I enjoyed the story about how you met your wife, because that to myself is, it's like she came on a trip and to attend your session, and you're like, she said, can I talk? You're like, absolutely, I can talk to you for a few minutes. So, and now, how long ago was that, Coach?
That was probably, 10 to 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think people have potential.
Yeah.
And other people recognize that potential in you. But think of it as raw, undeveloped potential. This is why people need coaches. It's like there's potential, but the potential has got to be activated. Then there's got to be direction to the potential. And so what I did is I've created all these structures to, number one, get a person to want to play at a bigger level. That's the activation of the prey drive. Once the prey drive is activated, you're not thinking about having one of these. You're thinking about having 100 of these. See where I'm going? You're thinking, okay, now I want to go play at a bigger frequency. Once that prey drive is activated, and then nothing happens until that prey drive is activated. Seeing a person can activate that drive. Being in a room with a person that's doing big things can activate that drive. Environments can activate that drive, right? So I think people look at people and go, you got potential. Go see this person, and they can help you with that potential, right? Like yesterday, I made a move to be on the board of a publicly traded company, and my first thought was, man, I need someone to mentor me, right? Like I've been on boards, but I've never been on boards of publicly traded companies.
Okay.
And it's like this is a new thing. And my first thought was, I need to go to somebody who could give me the lay of the land, right? What do I need to know? What do I need to do? What can I say? What can I not say?
Right.
Like this is not privately held companies. These are publicly held companies. So it's like my first thought is I need a coach. Right? And then just go, who is that? Who coaches people who are on boards or appointed to boards? So it's like, that's why people need a coach, because they have this raw, natural talent. And that talent has to be activated. Then it's got to be guided and directed. But millions of people will have that and never even have the knowledge of going to a coach. There was a woman at the Greatest Factory today with her husband. He signed up for the coaching. She fought him on it. And it was the first time she's ever been around that. And she could very quickly see this guy could help us. It's like she didn't know.
Right.
I was unaware. Now I'm aware.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I think once you're aware, it's like, oh, okay, this could help us play at a higher level.
Yeah. Have early, and then the coaching, and now you're talking to CEOs of $20 million companies, and you're helping a lot of people, Coach. Yep. When I've been able to be around you, it's like there is an ability that you have that I'm trying to kind of gauge. When you see something, you're going, okay. Yeah. And I was talking to my wife the other day, and we're having a conversation, and she said, to me, she says, I see things further down the road. Sometimes she sees it right here.
Yeah.
And as I get around guys like you, I'm going, wait, what are they seeing?
Yeah.
What's he seeing?
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, there's certain gifts that people have. I've taken a lot of tests to ascertain what my exact gifts are, how to utilize those gifts. I don't dabble with them. I'm very serious. I'm not casual with them. Mm-hmm. And one gift I have is the gift of vivid visualization, okay, which means I can see in my mind's eye 50 greatness factories. Okay. Now, that gift can be used constructively and destructively. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't use it constructively, you can go into negative town. Like if I see 50 and I've only got one, you can go from fantasizing, seeing it, to catastrophizing, which is you go all the way to negative town when things don't go the way you want them to. Okay, so it's a gift, but it can be used positive and negatively. I can see on down the road, like, okay, this is where I want to go. Like I can see confidence factories for kids. I can see money labs when I go to places which are cool places people work on ideation. I can see greatness factories. I can see it. Okay, so then I've got to follow that up with physical action. You go from mental creation into physical action. So what I'm always thinking of is, A, what's the NBO? What's my next big opportunity? How do I do this better, easier? I've kind of grinded it out for 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, okay, what's the next big opportunity? How do we get there? Who do we need to know? And how do I get out of this cycle into a bigger
mm-hmm.
play?
Mm-hmm. And teach me a little bit about here. You've written 17, 18, 21. Okay. I knew I was trying to count them up.
Can't short me 5 or 6 books.
All right. 21. But what did you do different as you started writing books? Because some of them did a little bit different, What?
Well, in the beginning, I wrote a book because people were asking me, what are you doing?
Okay.
Which is tells you that you have a monetizable idea. When people are constantly asking you, what are you doing? How are you doing? So that people come watch my teams play and they'd say, gosh, man, those kids, incredible. They're disciplined, chemistry, focus. And then say, well, how are you doing that? And I'd say, well, I ain't got time to explain it. And then so I wrote a book. I had no idea what to do with the book. Didn't know how to publish the book. Didn't know how to market a book. Wasn't talking about bestseller list. I just had a little message, right? But oddly enough, unintended, people would hand the book out to somebody, and then I started getting a few calls like, will you come speak at this banquet, right? And I was like, sure. And I remember I enjoyed preparing. I enjoyed the preparation. What am I going to talk about? I enjoyed the connection to the audience. And when I was finished at a little football banquet, little bitty football coach came to me and he said, man, you're good. He said, you could go on the circuit. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what he was talking about. I said, now what circuit are you talking about? And he said, around the world and speak. And then he said, I still didn't really understand. And then he said, like Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz was the head coach at Notre Dame. So I go, okay. So I go home and I look up Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz is speaking. He's writing books. And down in the corner it said $100,000 speaking fee for 1 hour. And I go, man, I think I can do this. So I write book 2, then I write book 3, then I write book 4. And remember, I'm a high school basketball coach. So I'm obsessed with building this program. It's all I think about. I don't have any friends. I don't have any kids. I don't have anything other than winning. I'm married to winning. And my program was like, this is it. This is all I do. So as I was writing these books, I'd go out and speak on the books. And then people started saying, will you come and speak to my people? And then say, what would it cost me? I had no idea what to say. And I remember a guy said, what would it cost me once? And I said, it'd be $350 for 3 hours. And he said, done. And I go, well, dang, I should have asked for a lot more money.
Right.
And then it gets bigger. I'm still coaching. I'm still building my team. I win a championship. I'm speaking in West Tennessee to a healthcare company, long-term healthcare facilities, which are nursing homes. And it was privately owned, husband and wife. They paid me $1,500 for the day. I thought it was big money. They come to me on the break and said, we need to talk to you. It's real serious. And I said, okay, what's going on? I said, we want you to be our coach. We want you to come to West Tennessee once a month for 1 week and coach our people. And I'm like, well, what does that look like? And they said, we're going to pay you $12,000 a month, $144,000. And I thought, this is crazy. I went home and told my mom. She didn't even believe me. She thought it was like, a scheme. She's like, there's no way somebody's going to pay you $144,000 to be their coach. And I'm saying, Mom, I'm telling you, these people are going to pay me $12,000 a month. Now, that's a quantum leap. So I'm making $50,000 a year, which comes out to, I don't know, $2,500, $3,000 a month. And it's taxed. I go over here and they say, for 1 week, we're going to pay you $12,000 for that 1 week a month. See, that's a quantum leap. I'm like, okay. So that kind of gave me some courage. I'd won a championship, so then I retired. And I started this business, which was, I don't know, I'm 48 now, so 31 years old, 17 years ago. And that's how it happened. Go speak. I'd go see them. I want you to coach my people. I'd say, what does that look like? And they'd say, well, how much is it going to cost me? Right? And it went from $75,000 to $150,000 to $250,000, all the way up to bigger numbers.
Right.
And at first I didn't even know. So guess what that forced me to do? Develop systems, structures, processes. How do I coach people? What is happening in these companies? How much pay drive do they have? So that forced me to come up with methodology to go do it.
Right. And that's one thing that, when I have had the pleasure of hearing you, seeing you, and it's like, what? Do you have situations that you're not prepared for? Do you? You know what I mean? Like I sit back and I go, sure, there's things that happen, like the builder or the deal, and you had to fly back and get that. Things happen, but I still think there's somewhere you go, oh, okay, I can just flip over to this, and that's how I'm going to handle this.
Yeah.
It's just a standard with you, right?
And it's a mindset of we don't lose, we learn. And adversity is a departure away from an ideal scene. What I do with that adversity, see, if you go all the way back to Covey, who I studied under for 8 years, everything was stimulus and response. Between stimulus and response is a space. And in that space lies my ability to choose my response. So all I can control is my stimulus. I can't always control the response. So things happen. And there's a departure away from the ideal scene, and you go, okay, how am I going to handle this? Am I going to whine about it? Am I going to complain about it? Or am I going to use it to accelerate process, right? Building a greatness factory from the scratch, there's no doubt that I wasted at least $500,000 or $1 million on building it, from people taking advantage of me, of things I didn't know, of technology we didn't need, of, there's no doubt that I made a lot of mistakes doing it, but now I know. And I wouldn't have known until I did it. So when I go to do number 2 or number 3 or number 4, then it's like, we're not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Step into the future with Power Loops, the king of off-grid power, where our proprietary system is changing the game of energy. This isn't just power, it's freedom. The freedom to live, work, and play anywhere, powered by our innovative technology that taps into the Earth's natural energy. Our system is designed for efficiency, durability, and sustainability, ensuring that you have reliable power 365 days a year without harming the planet. Whether you're traveling in the RV, the remote wilderness, or just opting out of traditional power grids, Power Loops provides the ultimate solution. Join us in leading the charge towards a cleaner, greener, and more empowered world. Power Loops, the king of off-grid energy.
Yeah. And that's one thing, thanks again for the compliment on the studio.
Yeah.
But on the way here today, man, if we could have known, we could have done this.
Yeah.
And it might have done,
That's right.
and it's just, we're growing with it.
That's
so when you go into work with a team, with a company, Is it different according to the company, or is there like how do you?
There's a formula that I use.
Okay.
Of missing structures, and it doesn't matter if it's a startup company to a multi-billion-dollar company. They all have missing structures. So what I found by going into all these companies, banks, mortgage companies, I spent 4 years in the prison system. It's like I would take notes. Everybody struggles with confidence. Everybody struggles with this. Nobody wants to do this, right? And then I would codify it and deconstruct it and go, okay, I'm going to build a whole program around it. I'm going to build a program around confidence. I'm going to build a program around boldness. I'm going to build a program around selling, follow-up, conversion, whatever. I would take the problems and convert it into a program and then teach it. And but listen, every company, no matter how big the company is, has one of 6 problems. Prey drive, activation. Can't get people motivated. 2, don't know how to explain their value in a compelling way. 3, don't know how to generate leads for the business. 4, don't know how to follow up and convert on those leads. 5, don't know how to engage with people after they've been sold. Or 6, they don't know how to become known in the world. So I'll say, which of these problems do you have? Some people go, I got all 6 problems.
Yeah.
I'll say, well, I'm glad you're talking to me.
Right.
But the truth is, billion-dollar companies have these problems, right? I would coach mortgage companies, and I would look at the stats, because remember, I'm a coach, and I'm a guy of probability, right? You are a coach.
Yeah.
Everything can be broken down to statistical probability.
Right.
Okay. Average person is going to buy 4 to 7 homes in their lifetime. Each satisfied person should be worth 5.7 referrals over the lifetime of the consumer. It takes 7 to 15 touches 80% of the time to convert a prospect to a buyer. And I would go, are we following up 7 times on leads? Nope. We're losing money. Are we following up after we sell a person a house? 98% of people don't. We're losing money. Are we getting 5.7 referrals? Nope. We're losing money. If I could quantify how much money you're losing, if you're losing $10 million a year, and I say I can help you recoup that $10 million, and I'd like $500,000. Now I'm helping them make money, and that makes it easier for me to sell it to them.
Right.
Because a lot of people see training as a cost. It's an expense. It's like, I don't want to get coaching because it's an expense. Well, we got a State Farm agent out of I think Wyoming. Jana, is that right? Wyoming. And it's like, he was going out coaching people. He typically made between $10,000 and $15,000 of back-end sales. He comes into my coaching program. He invests $20K. His next speaking engagement, he watches some of my videos to get ready. He watches a video that says he should change his offer. He goes and does the exact same thing he's been doing, except he changes the offer based on the coaching. First engagement, he does $150,000. So he's like, 20. I paid you 20. On my next engagement, I made 150.
Yeah.
That's what coaching can do, because sometimes we don't know. It's not like there's something wrong with us. We just don't know what we're not doing.
Coach, I'm laughing. My boys are 6 and 9.
Yep.
And my 9-year-old had a soccer practice the other night, and I'm helping coach with the soccer. One of his teammates takes his little Gatorade water bottle, whatever it is, and throws it as high and as far as he can, and it hits, and it goes, and it busts. And he goes, I didn't think that would happen. And I thought about you there for a minute. Like, how would he know better?
That's right.
If he hasn't been taught.
That's right.
And he hasn't been coached.
That's right.
And instead of going, hey, kid, did you not realize? No, he didn't.
He didn't.
That would be like that coach telling you you're slow.
That's right.
And not getting there 30 minutes early. But I sat there for a second. I watched that bottle fly. I'm like, that's going to bust, right?
Yep.
And it does. And the kid goes, oh, and he loses his water, and we're to practice. And I'm like, I got you another water, kid. You're fine. But I thought about you in that moment, because it's like, he didn't know.
Right.
So you just come in and teach and coach.
Right. And most people don't know.
Right.
They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And the worst part is they don't go seek. They don't go seek out help. So what that does, that drives me crazy, is it perpetuates a vicious cycle of doing the same thing over and over and over and getting the same results over and over. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, see, what was the first thought I had when I didn't know, when I was in that meeting yesterday? I need to go get a coach. Like I'm good, but I need coaching in this very specific area. Okay. That's my thought. If I don't know, let me go find somebody who does know. Most people just keep doing it. And so you go back and study, I don't think it was Maxwell who come up with this, but unconscious incompetence. Conscious incompetence is I know that I don't know. Unconscious incompetence is I don't even know what I don't know. And there's some ignorance to that. I don't mean that in a negative way.
True.
But it's like, when I grew up in a small town, we never went to New York City. We didn't go to Chicago. We didn't go to Miami. We didn't go to Los Angeles. I didn't see those places. I went to the same place every year to vacation, right? So you can imagine when I first started traveling the world and I went to New York City and I'm like, God, look at this opportunity. It's everywhere. I go to Houston, Texas. There's 6 million people in Houston. I go to Miami. I go to, it's like, then I was in Fort Worth, Texas last week. It's like, look at all this opportunity here. I've never even spent time here. I've never been to Austin, Texas. So there's like, we get caught up. It's like, oh my gosh, this is hard. And where am I going to find people? And there's not enough money. And then you get out in the world. It's like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like air.
That was the guest we've had earlier, Mickey Hyder, and he's been in the music business and baseball business, etc. And we were talking about that as he said he would bet on people back in the day, a songwriter, an artist, and if they made it, then everybody wins.
Yep.
Right? So he had to have that vision. He had to be able to see, and we've talked about some things as he talked about out there, but it was a lot of similarities here.
Yes.
And it's not, that's the thing that I've been very excited about, because as a coach, sure, we had systems, we had, just because you made an out at the plate doesn't mean you didn't have a quality at bat. How did we structure this? What can we learn, right? So we tried to teach that way, and I've always been that way. But over the last few years, I think the mirror has told me that I may not be doing that.
Yeah.
And I know that I don't know.
That's right.
But I'm a little too proud to ask for help sometimes because I'm a man and I'm going to figure this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So obviously you run into that all the time. They want it, but they don't want it. And they're going to push and do that. But what are some of those stories that you went into that maybe, have you ever been surprised when you go help somebody and they go, and you're like, wow.
Well, I know that there's a high level of probability. There's no way if you have a skilled coach that you're not going to get better.
Right.
Okay. What I see is that people don't know, number one, so they never seek. Number two, they do know, but it's going to cost some money. And they see that as an expense. Or they say that's expensive. Now, I just gave you an example of a guy who invested $20,000 into his coaching and in the first week made $150,000 because of new knowledge. So think of it like this. As we gain new knowledge, we gain new capabilities. But even as you're sitting here thinking about it, there's people that I need to invest in to help me do something, right? I wrote the first 18 books. I never had a Wall Street Journal bestseller. I had Amazon bestsellers, but I never had, it's a whole nother league. Like today, you could sell a bunch of copies on Amazon in a day and nobody's in that category and you call it an Amazon bestseller and kind of pacifies that of you telling people but it's not really the big leagues. The big leagues is New York Times bestseller. The big leagues is Wall Street Journal bestseller. So I write, 4 major published books and I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to sell it. It's not how well the book is written, although the quality does matter. It's how well the book is marketed. And you got to use all these guerrilla marketing techniques to get people to buy the book. So I'm like, all right, I'm making a simple decision for this book to be a Wall Street Journal bestseller or New York Times. I really wanted to hit New York Times. But I don't know how to do it. And so I call, I think Ed Milet, and I'm like, who launched your book, man? It was incredible. Looks like you sold 100,000 copies the first day. And he said, Rory Vaden. And I go, okay. So I pick up the phone, I call Rory Vaden, who's speaking at my conference, by the way, coming up in September. And I go, man, I want to spend time with Rory Vaden. And they said, it's $18,000 for 3 hours, $35,000 for the day, right? And see, at first, you go, oh, $18,000 for 3 hours? It's the wrong way to look at this. I didn't know how to do something. I could try to do it on my own. I could watch videos, I could watch YouTube, or I could invest the $18,000 to go learn a new capability. So I invest the $18,000, I go spend 3 hours, he gives me 5 strategies. The book sells 10,000 units, it hits the Wall Street Journal bestseller. I didn't even know that the book couldn't hit the New York Times because of the publisher I went with. There's certain publishers that it don't matter how many copies you sell, it's not going to be on the New York Times.
Okay.
They don't like those publishers, whatever. I didn't even know that. I thought I got a major published book. It's with a major company. I could do this. So that was the first thing that I didn't even know. So he goes, we got to hit the Wall Street Journal. I said, okay. So we try these strategies. We do the deal. Now, I generate 10,000 leads from selling the book. I hit the Wall Street Journal list, which drives up the speaking fees, the revenue, everything. Now, you tell me, was the $18,000 an expense or an investment?
A great investment.
Okay, well, that's the part that drives me crazy that people can't understand. It's like, I know I want you to be my coach, but it seems expensive. And it's like, well, I can't help you. It's not free. What you're really paying for is 33 years of me doing this. And that comes with a lot. It's not expensive, but it is not the cheapest. And so you got to look at it as, when you go shopping, you can go to Aldi, you can go to Target, you can go to Walmart, you can go to, Publix, or you can go to Whole Foods.
Right.
And depending on what, it's gonna
It's going to be a different price.
That's right.
And quality.
That's right.
Right? I mean, so I saw you really enjoyed the post when you were on the cruise and talking about at this level. There's a different level
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't get to see,
That's
experience, feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And by you doing that video, I've been on cruises, but I've never been there. And I'm sitting there watching going, I want to go work out with him up there. I want to go sit at that. I want to go see that.
at the bigger table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about those experiences, and what about the cruise you could tell us, but tell me what that was about.
Well, it's like the first time I flew private. You don't know what that's like until you do it.
Yeah.
No waiting lines, no security, no just walk right out on the plane and be in the air in 7 minutes. It changes you. You see a different altitude. You think bigger. With the cruise, I've been on cruises my whole life. I've spoken on probably 20 cruises. I've never stayed up in the suite level. I don't even know if I knew it existed. And as part of this deal, they wanted me to speak, and I said, look, if you want me to speak, I want a nice room, suite, something nice. And they said, done. And so I was up on the 18th level, which was the highest level of the ship. There's a whole nother world. It wasn't like a nicer room. It was like private concierge, your own restaurants, your own swimming pools, your own deck to lay out, big, huge rooms. It's totally different than what you think of a cruise, which I'm in this little room. I got this little bathroom, and I'm a little guy, but even in a little bitty shower, in this one, you got a big bathtub. You got your own freaking bathtub on the cruise. It's like a big hot tub in there. It's like, and I'm like, this is another level. But once you see it, you're not going back.
Well,
and from that point forward, now that's going to cost you more money. And so a lot of people go, well, I just, I'll stay down here and complain about it. I'll be on the cruise. But I'm telling you, in life, there's levels. First time I went to Bradley's office, I was like, now this marble everywhere. This is an office, right? First time I went to and saw Cardone's sales team selling 40, 50 people on the phones. I'm like, this is a sales team, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now that I've seen it, now I know what's possible, right? It's like, this is a bigger level, and that's the level people are trying to get to. So the first step of activating the prey drive is to see it, right? If you want to know what a billionaire does every day, shadow a billionaire. Go spend a day with a billionaire. And if they say it's $10,000, it's an interesting thing. I had Jeff Hoffman at my lodge. I have this big lodge out in Christiana, Tennessee, 8,000 square foot lodge. And Hoffman founded Priceline. It's a $93 billion company. So he's a billionaire. I called it Dinner with a Billionaire. I couldn't get people to come. I literally couldn't get people to come. I couldn't sell tickets. I was selling tickets at $4.97, $6.97. And it was in my home city of Murfreesboro, where I live. And I was asking my friends, like, this is crazy. I'm bringing a freaking billionaire in. He's going to spend time on a Saturday night teaching people how he became a billionaire. I paid the guy to come, and I couldn't sell tickets to it. And I asked one of my friends, it's like, what is the problem here? And he's like, man, people can't even see themselves being a millionaire, let alone a billionaire. So far out of their realm of thinking, they don't even think it's possible. So why go listen to one? I'm thinking, who wouldn't want to hear this? So frustrating. So people have these limitations. What I try to do is teach people, if he's doing it, you can do it. If somebody else is doing it, it's possible, right? I mean, Bannister, nobody ran the 4-minute mile until Bannister. And then everybody runs a 4-minute mile. Not me. I'm not running a 4-minute mile, but I'm saying it's like he opened up this thing, right? It's like, this is possible. Then, the number one thing people said to me about the Greatness Factory? You said you were going to do it, and by God, you did it. I've been talking about things I was going to do for years, and I still haven't done them, right? That means something to people. You say you're going to do something, you put your mind to it, and you see it through to its conclusion. And that is a habit of the top 1%. See things through to their conclusion. You don't live in ideas, you live in execution.
So there's something that I've heard you say several times, and I wanted to get it on this show. So I'm going to make a special request here that there's I've heard it not with the execution part at the end.
Yep.
But there's some simple-minded people that are here. There's some people here, and they're talking about different things. So you follow me what I'm asking here?
Yeah.
So how do you say that they talk about ideas, they talk about this?
Well, I think a guy named Ben Wilson gave me that. I was coaching him, and Ben wanted to make $5 million a year, so he could give away $1 million. He said, "This is my goal. I need to make $5 million, so I give $1 million away to charity." It's okay. And one day he said to me, "Small time people get together and talk about other people. Next level up gets together and talk about events, things that happened in the past. You go to the football game, you see the news, you see what happened at the debate. Big time people get together and talk about ideas. This is how we're going to make money. This is how we're going to do it. But super big time people get together and talk about execution. Like, let's go, let's quit talking, and let's move." And that's 4 levels of people, right? And so just think about how much time is spent talking about other people, worrying about other people, thinking about other people. And then how much time is spent in, okay, this is how we're going to go do this. So we got to get from that mental creation into physical action. And a physical action is 1 step, 1 phone call, 1 email, 1 follow-up. It's like, this is what I want to do. Who can help me do it? But we get caught in this, I call it keeping the trains running. Got to get up, keep the trains running, man. So we don't pursue the bigger goals, the NBO, the next big opportunity, because we're stuck. We're caught in that trap, right? Kiyosaki called it the rat race, which is a great term. And the reason it caught is because most people just caught up in the rat race, man. They get home, they're tired, they got this to go do, they get that. They don't have enough energy to even pursue a big NBO, next big opportunity.
Here at Smith Financial Services, we take care of small business owners, 1099 contract workers, and their families. We know insurance can be rough if you're a small business owner, so we are here to make things easy. Visit our website, smithfinancial.services, to learn more.
And you've known some of the guests that we've had in here, and we've had some of the people you mentioned, and Brad, and different things. But, you know, I, as a coach, and I'm sitting back watching you guys as a baseball coach, and I started messaging Brad about closer school because I also had a used car lot. I've done some different things, and I've managed businesses, and I'm sitting here going, how do I do this? How do I do this?
Yep.
And 4 years ago, I met the guy running this thing right now because we did a baseball showcase during COVID when coaches couldn't come see players. So we rented a field. We put cameras on the field.
Okay.
We ran it as a webinar.
Okay.
So the college coaches could sit and have a recording of what these kids did.
Interesting. Yep.
We were the first people in Alabama to do it.
Yep.
California beat me with perfect game baseball, did it before me.
Okay.
But we went to a field that wasn't being used because of COVID. So a brand new minor league park in Madison, Alabama.
Okay.
We rented it for a day.
Yep.
Brought 40 kids, kept it small, charged enough so we could just see how it would go. And it turned into something cool. Well, then after COVID, they could come again, so we didn't have the need for that. But that's how I met the guy who now helped me build this.
Yeah.
And then we get around guys like you and Brad and these other people and Nick, and they're like, you know, when I leave here, Nick said, you better stop by because we got to talk about the next big thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I hadn't even started the thing you told me last week. And he's like, that's fine.
Yeah.
We got to stay moving forward. So by me doing some things and making decisions that I didn't know was going to put me in this position, but it's really cool when I tell you this, to tell you 4.5 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, when he and I were sitting around planning the baseball event.
Yep.
We're sitting there going, hey, have you seen this guy, Bradley? Have you seen this guy, Coach Burt? Man, wouldn't it be cool to sit down and talk to those guys one day? And, you know, Stu, give me a thumbs up back there for, see? And it's like, that's the conversation we had in his office just over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I had no idea. How am I going to get Coach Burt to come hang out with me?
Yep.
How? We'll build this and go up there and park here and
Yeah.
talk to Jana,
Yep.
and we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Right? How do I get Bradley in here? Well, Brad, I got a studio in a what? I got to see that, man. I got to see it, right? So you do something.
That's right.
So this is a long time coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this is where we're sitting back now going, okay, we've done all these things. Okay, God, give us what we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're coaching people and you're seeing that they're doing this, and it's like, really, ultimately, you're just giving them the structure, right?
Yeah.
You're just giving them the map.
Yeah. The other thing I think I'm giving them, which is getting more and more prevalent or more obvious to me, is the remarkable boldness they need. Okay. Now let me give you an example. There's 5 habits of the top 1% of performers. I talk about this in my book, Flip the Switch. I'm fascinated by it because a lot of people want to play at a high level and they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, okay, what are the habits of the top performers? Remarkable boldness, intrinsic motivation, connection, grit and resilience, and ability to lock in and see something through to its conclusion. Okay. If I had to give my kids one of those, which one would I give them? It's tough, right? Because every study in the world shows that grit and resilience is really where it's the most successful people have. But when you step back and really think about it, the people who do the big things have a boldness about them that is striking. So striking fearlessness, right? So let me give you an example. I'm a big fan of a guy named Bryce Pritchett. Pritchett wrote U Squared, Quantum Thinking. Is, I think probably in his 70s. He's a psychologist, worked at the Pentagon, left there, executive recruiting. And so he writes these little books. And there's something about the way he writes these books that gets you thinking anything's possible, right? Quantum thinking is things jump, like particles jump with ease. It's not hard. It's not like I got to go here and I got to grind it out and I got to, like, that's what people tell you. You got to build one greatness factory. You got to show it can make money. Then you got to build 2. And then, man, that sucks. Could I license it where people want it? Could I partner with someone who could scale it? Could I just go over to Cool Springs and say, man, I'm opening one over here too? Could I come to Madison, Alabama and open one? Could I come wherever? Yes. So I was in Dallas last week and I reached out to Bryce Pritchett's office and I said, I'm going to be in town. I'd love to meet with Bryce, right? And they go, okay, he's available at 10 o'clock. I go over, I drive over from Fort Worth. I spend an hour with him. He said, I've been looking at your website, man. You're doing all these big things. I'm impressed. He's like, we took this meeting because I can tell you're doing things.
Right.
And I said, how many people do you think have read your book, U Squared? Hundreds of thousands, if not millions. I said, how many people have reached out to you to actually meet you? Hardly any.
Yeah.
I said, that is remarkable boldness. The only thing, all they could have told me was no. But he said yes. Now we're talking about partnerships. Now we're talking about him speaking at my conference. Now we're talking, you see where I'm going?
Yeah.
So people read books and people see people and they go, I can never get access to that dude. I mean, he's too busy being fabulous, whatever. The truth is, I started a lot of my business just like you. I had a radio show on the Fox News affiliate, which is AM station in Nashville, WLAC. Probably didn't have 200 listeners. But every week I would interview people. And Cardone, Nito Cobain, Marcus Lemonis. And it's like, man, I got this show on the Fox News affiliate, right? That's all I had to say because they thought that's big time.
Yeah.
They didn't know it was on an AM station. And I was going to Antioch, Tennessee. And nobody's listening. It's Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. But when I said, man, I just had Grant Cardone last week, they like, really? I said, yeah. I said, man, I had Marcus Lemonis on. I was on The Prophet the week before that. I had Nito Cobain, president of High Point University. And they go, oh, I got to be on that show. And every Sunday I would spend an hour with some of the biggest people in the world. This was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And then at the end, I'd say, man, I'd love to do something with you. Let's follow up and let's do something together. And some of them said, right? Now, that looks innocent. It's like nothing's happening. Fast forward 7 years. Because of that, I'm speaking on a stage at 10X, Mandalay Bay, 10,000 people. We generate $2 million. Cardone says, I want you to come to Riviera Maya, Mexico and do this event with me, 75 people. And guess who was there? Brad Lee. That's where I met Brad Lee.
Okay.
Riviera Maya, Mexico, 2014, right? We didn't talk much. I didn't know if I liked him or didn't like him.
Yeah.
And then he came to Nashville after that, and I invited him to dinner, and we went to dinner for 3 hours, and we argued for 3 straight hours. Because he's contrarian, right? Everything I'd say, he'd say back. I mean, we fought for 3. I'm like, this is the most intense dinner I've ever been to. Because everything I'd say, he would just counter. And I think he was testing me. And then we got finished. I had this sprinter, this real nice sprinter. We went out and looked at it, and he said, boy, I sure do like you. We should be doing business together.
Yeah.
And there you go. That's my story about Cardone and Bradley and all those people. Because 10X introduced me to Ed Milet, to Frisella, to Tim Story, to Tim Grover, who I became good friends with.
Yeah.
See, it all started with a little radio show in Nashville on the Fox News affiliate, AM station, Sunday afternoons, working that muscle, man.
Mm-hmm.
Working the muscle. Getting better.
What does Coach Burt do for fun?
What is that?
What do you do
What
for
is fun?
Winning?
So the truth is, a lot of people, I don't have a lot of hobbies like people would think.
Okay.
I like freedom. Tomorrow I have no schedule. I got nobody to coach. I can do what I want to. I may want to work. I may want to ride into the bookstore. I may want to write a new book. I may want to ride my bike 4 times. I may want to work out twice. I'm a creative being. The worst thing you could do to me is overbook me, where I'm just got to deliver over and over and over. The best thing you could do for me is to say, you know what, we're going to give this dude a day off and let him go be Coach Burt. Whatever he wants to do, and I'll come up with a $10 million idea if I'm free. So to me, fun is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think, for years, I worked 80 hours a week as a coach for 13 years. Started this business, worked 80 hours a week. Right now, I'm at a point where it's like, okay, what do I want to do? I need some space. I need some margin. I need some space to think. I need some space to work on a deal that I see. I need some space to work on a big partnership. So on my days off, I don't really like sit around or lay around. Mm-hmm. I literally may go work out twice and get everything going, right? And then I'll have an idea, and then poor Jana, I'll send them to her, and she probably gets 30 or 40. She's like, God, I hate when he has a day off. But the truth is, then it's like she's my integrator. So now it's like, okay, Jana, this is where I want to go, right? And I'm working on deals, man, that could be so big. They're really game-changing deals. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I need to give this one more attention. I need to give this person more attention. I need to give that person more attention. And so that's fun to me.
Exactly. Well, and one reason I ask is because a few times I've been to Brad's, and I've been to that room in a training class. A few times I've been to the Greatness Factory.
Yeah.
There's something that both of you guys did. You were both there when I got there, and you were both there when I left.
Yeah.
And I'm looking back, and I brought that up to people that I'm coaching and helping right now on a small scale. And I said, guys, Coach Burt was there when I got there, and he was there when I left. Yeah. And they were like, oh, well, what time did you leave? I said, I think Mike told me to leave. You know what I mean? I think Mike said, hey, it's time.
Yep.
And I was like, but this is cool. Like, so if you guys are still doing that, you're not, oh, I need to go home. I need to go do this.
Yeah.
The execution's there. And I still see that there's no fluff in your coaching stories. There's no fluff there because you're still doing it.
Yeah.
And really and truthfully, Brad sat in here and talked for a couple hours that day, and he said, man, I need to get back on the throttle somewhere. I'm playing too much, doing this, doing that. But then when I see him work, it's different, right? I mean, in you, it's like, I could see y'all having an argument for 3 hours, though.
Well, we argued about being a person of interest.
Yeah.
Because I've always made this statement, I've never met a lazy person of interest. Okay? And he goes, well, I'm lazy. And I'm a person of interest. And I go, no. What I see is you working on Saturday and Sunday and being at the office and getting up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning. Mm-hmm. I said, you may not work like I do, right? There's a pace and an intensity I go at that's different. Mm-hmm. But he's still working, okay? And so he works different than I do. So there's no right or wrong. I'm a grinder. I get in there. If I'm not doing something, man, I pick up this phone and I'm like, I got to call. I got to get on the phone, call somebody. I got to put a deal together. I got to do this. Like, I'm still in that mode of building. Mm-hmm. I'll go out there and sit with him, and we'll sit there for hours, and then he wants to smoke a cigar. And it's like, when do y'all work here? You know what I'm saying? But this is work.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, in his model, people go out there, they see his office, they talk, and somewhere business happens. You're either going to go into real merchants, you're going to go into his insurance company. You see where I'm going? Business is happening and exchanging, but it's different than the way I think about work, which is I got to create something, right? Like when in doubt, take an action.
Right.
We never just sit. We never, and it's probably as I get older, probably something I'll get better at of enjoying. You know, I have moments of enjoyment. I'd say moments of happiness.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I built this. Man, I've got, this, or man, I've done this, or man, I didn't know that, right? Like my buddy always gives me a hard time. My buddy Tommy Davidson once, because he's like my best friend, and I was having a bad day, and I called him, and he goes, "Gosh, I know it, man. It's tough." And he said, how many houses? You got 4 houses, right? And he said, you got that private jet, and you got that big lodge, and you got that greatness factory. He said, gosh, it must suck to be you. It must suck to be you, Coach. Yeah. And he's a guy who will say, what are you whining about, man? What more do you need? Yeah. But it ain't about those things, really, to me, to be honest with you. I am miserable when I'm not pursuing something.
I get it. Because I know I've ran a full marathon one time just to do it. And like you said, and I'm still sitting back learning. I'm sitting here observing everything. But I know when I finished that marathon, it was kind of like, okay, what's next?
Yep.
Like, okay, it's over. Yay, we took a picture with my buddy that drove me there.
Yep.
And then we went, and I think I ate 2 baskets of those rolls at like Roadhouse and a big steak.
Those are some good rolls, man.
And I had a great day.
Yep.
And, but I haven't done another marathon or anything. It just was, but it's like you go through the process, you go through these things, and even if, you fail, you learn, right? And then you keep figuring it out. So what is, I've heard you in Miami, maybe last year. Yeah. Okay. I was down there with an insurance group at that point. Heard you down there. Saw your I don't think the table they had set up for you, nobody had got there yet. Yep. But I knew that you knew Brad, and I was trying to make the connection. I just missed you that day. Yep. But in somebody like in my case, okay, I'm a coach. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm taking these steps, and I've got my GPS. I've got my destination. We know where we want to go. But sometimes it's like, do I find, there's a lot of coaches out there, and they are what they are, but you've been there, done that. But if I want to get to where you are, and I'm at, this level, and hiring a coach or looking at it, we understand it's an investment. We understand it's an opportunity. Yep. I understand that you're going to take obstacles and make them opportunities. You're going to do a lot of things to do that. But if somebody was just watching this show and they were like, hey, what would Coach tell me? How would I get in touch? How does this happen? Yep. How do I go find Coach Burt at the Greatness Factory? What would they do?
The first thing is to get intensely curious about doing it. Mm-hmm. I saw Ed Milet give a talk in Salt Lake City once. It was me and Milet and Grover were the 3 speakers. Pretty damn good. It's a pretty damn good lineup. And it was door-to-door salesman. And the stage was way back here, and the people were way out there. And it's a very odd speaking situation because all the lights were on you. You couldn't see people. So you're up on stage, you feel isolated, and you can't. They're way back there. And for some reason, Milet thought that people weren't taking notes. And he became furious at the audience. Yeah. And he kept talking about dabbling. Man, y'all are dabbling with your potential versus deciding, right? Don't be casual with your potential. Right. And who you think you're not, I'm up here and I'm over $500 million. You can't take a freaking note. I mean, he just lost it on these people. Mm-hmm. But the point, and I texted him afterward and I said, it's one of the best talks I've ever seen you do. And he said, man, I got all worked up and sorry, and I shouldn't have got worked up like that. And I cussed too much. And I said, man, too many people are casual with their potential. Yeah. If you want to do something, whether it be a coach like me, you get intensely curious and you go seek out people who know how to do it. And you say, this is what I want to do, right? And you get in a room with them and you flip the, for a guy like you flip it. You go back to your player mindset. You put your player mindset on. Like the coach needs a player. There's a symbiotic relationship between the coach and the player. And if the player's not coachable, the coach can't get them to that level. And so that's what people need to do. They need to go, look, I need to go find Coach Burt. I was telling Antoine on the way over here, I am a specialist at activating prey drive. There's no way you're not going to want to do bigger things when you're around a guy like me. It's going to, because I know how to go deep inside of your heart and activate that drive, right? I know how to build competitive intelligence in teams. I'm talking build stone cold killers. I know how to package intellectual property for monetization. These are my skill sets. I can't cook. I'm geographically illiterate. If the tire on this thing went down, I'd be calling somebody.
Gotcha.
It wouldn't be me fixing it. Okay? But in my zone of genius, for some reason, this is where the good Lord has gifted me my gifts. You with me? I can take a person and go, okay, let me show you how to package your skill. Let me show you how to make money with this skill. Because I don't believe you just need to find your why and everything will work out. I really don't.
I've tried it.
And I think Simon Sinek's a smart dude. I know a lot of people get defensive when I talk about this, but I think he had a great concept that people locked onto. I think he's a brilliant guy. But when I read those books, I still walk away going, could I know my why and be broke? Could I know my purpose and not be motivated today? I know that God put me on earth to coach people, right? It's all I've ever done since I was 15. There's days I don't feel like coaching people. There's days I go, man, I've been doing this for 3 decades, right? I should have a seat at a bigger table. So I don't think finding your why is a solution. I think finding your skill is step 1. Finding the problem you would like to solve, step 2. Packaging the skill, step 3. Marketing the skill, step 4. So if you say I'm a coach, okay, what kind of people are you coaching? What problem are you solving for them, right? There's too many life coaches. There's too many motivational coaches. It's saturated, right? So now what we have to do is become specialists. Okay, I'm a specialist at, like I just told you my specialization. And so when I'm on the phone with the person, I'm like, man, there's nobody better than me at packaging an idea to make money with it. I believe that. Nobody better at activating prey drive than me. Nobody studied it in humans like I have. That's why I trademark all these things. Because it's like, this is my zone of genius. Milet has his zone of genius. Cardone, Bradley, they all are good at their deal. And you have to find what that is for you. And who would pay you the most money for that, right? Now, I found out that companies would pay me a fortune. But I didn't enjoy doing it. I didn't enjoy going into a company, getting a bunch of people who didn't want to be motivated. So I go, what if they paid for it themselves? The individual. That's called psychological demand. So I shifted the model where people pay for it themselves, all right? And guess what? I don't have bad attitudes when they pay for it themselves, right? Unless they're at very low levels. And they haven't figured it out yet. Everything's a big deal to a person paying $97 a month that all they got's $97.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I lived in a 2-bedroom condo. I've been broke.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? I know what it means. But also I didn't stay there. So I don't have a lot of empathy for people who stay there and whine about it. Like, if you don't like being at that level, then let's go get you to another level. It is available to you, right?
Yeah.
Don't complain about it.
Yeah.
Do something about it.
Yeah. One of the things I liked that Brett said, I heard him say one time, he said, a lot of people don't like the level that they're at. They complain about the house they're in, the car they drive, but they won't let go of it and go for it.
That's right.
And they would rather sit in it. And I'm like,
That's right.
Wow, And it kind of, that's part of the reason we're doing what we're doing now.
But the real problem is they don't have the confidence in themselves that they can make it work.
Yeah.
So think insecurity without confidence, memory of success, boldness, striking fearlessness. So a lot of my coaching is instilling a remarkable boldness in people to go for it.
Yeah. And that boldness is evident to me for a little bit of feedback here. When I heard the money lap, I thought, that takes that takes some balls to call it that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, if you go in there, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. We're talking about money.
Yeah.
And talking about monetization.
But that's kind of, well, I don't know if I should talk about it right away. We need to build this program. We need to talk about this. You're like, okay, this is where we're working on this skill.
That's right. And it is a skill. Monetization is a skill. So how many talented people cannot figure out how to make money? And so, I grew up going to a Church of Christ in Tennessee. We'll never talk about money. Right? Even to this day, me and my own mother don't talk about money.
Okay.
And it's like, we don't talk about that. Now, Mom don't she don't mind staying at some of the houses I got. And I'm like, those houses cost money, Mom.
Yeah.
And that money came from me working my ass off for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can't have one without the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like those are things that are taboo, especially in the South, in the Bible Belt. We don't talk about it. But money's a piece of paper. It's created by the government. It's exchanged between people who create value for each other. If you can just change how you see it, it's not as hard to get as we think if we can create real value for people. You see where I'm going? And a lot of people never had that course. If they had that course, which I didn't have,
Right.
I mean, I didn't even know the difference between an asset and a liability at 31 years old. When I left being a basketball coach, I need to grow my financial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down and I bought a book called How to Grow Your Financial IQ by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. Now, what's funny is fast forward 7, 10, 12 years, I'm sitting having dinner with Sharon Lechter at her house, and she wrote that book, How to Grow Your Financial IQ. She wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Kiyosaki. She wrote the first 10 books. So it's like I went from emulating these people to sitting at the table with these people. And that is something everybody should try to do. Cultivate that skill to be at a bigger table.
Well, Coach, I know that we've scheduled this time, and obviously I'm going to respect your time. But is there anything that you have upcoming that people need to know about? Is there anything that we need to cover today?
Well, I'd stay all day with you if Jana would let me, but she won't. She won't let me because I got to go do this again somewhere else.
I understand.
But I think, man, I think we've covered a lot of good things.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're doing is you're getting in the game and you're getting around people who know how to play the game, right?
Right.
Now it's like pick your NBO,
Yep.
your next big opportunity, and pursue it with a passion and an intensity, right? And then the monetization. How do you because as soon as I walk in this place, I'm like, oh yeah, man, this could be monetized. Every conference in America, people would pay money to have these things built, right? Because like I said, you go to a conference, they're doing it in some dumpy hotel room. It's not set up correctly, And the reason I give things names is because you can identify with it. When you name something, it becomes valuable. Money Lab, Dream Foundry, Level 10 Podcast Studio. You see where I'm going? It's the Greatness Factory. It makes it important to valuable to other people. So,
absolutely.
I think people out there that are looking for a coach, that's what I do.
And you do a damn good job.
Thank you.
You do.
Thank you.
Do, which is evident, and it's you got the numbers, the stats to show for it. Coach, I'm going to say again, thank you for your time, because I'm going to be selfish, and I think I'm going to watch this show over and over and over.
I hope so.
Okay, I'm loving it, but I'll be back to talk to you in person.
I love it.
All right.
I love
Coach,
it, brother. Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you. I owe you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Podcast on Wheels.